Why do we keep trying to be good at things we're not good at? You know, if you're a 2 at something, you can struggle all your life and maybe become a 4. But if you're an 8 at something, you can focus on that and work with God, and you can become a 10 real quick. The way to stand out is not to be halfway, maybe a little bit decent at 20 things, but it's to take 2 or 3 things that you're really gifted for and pour yourself into that and become outstanding at those things. You don't have to do what everybody else does. You don't have to do what everybody else does. If you're an exhorter, then give yourself to your exhortation. You know, Mike is our staff pastor. Mike, stand up a minute just so they know who we're talking about. He's our, we got enough employees, we got to pastor them. Because, you know, Christian people are not all perfect, and believe it or not, they can argue and, you know. So Mike's in charge of, what do we call it? Conflict. Oh, yeah, Mike's in charge of conflict resolution. and he's good at it. But now, Mike knows the name of every person in our building. He probably knows all their families' names. I run into people sometimes somewhere, and they'll say, "Hi, I work for you." "Oh, how long have you worked for me?" 12 years. And I don't know them. And you say, "Well, that sounds terrible." Well, I don't have the gift of running around the building. That's not my gift. My gift is to pray and preach and study and write and get these messages and do. Will you just get happy doing what God has called you to do? Oh, I better behave. Some of you are looking at me funny. Come on, just admit it. Don't you just get tired of the pressure? Does anybody just get tired of the pressure? You know what? Every pastor's wife doesn't have to play the piano and lead the ladies group at church. What are you good at? What do you enjoy? God will not call you to a career that makes you miserable. If you try to do something that you're not gifted at, it will only frustrate you, and you'll forfeit your peace and your joy. And you know what else you'll do? You'll make the other people that you're in a relationship with unhappy. Because if you're unhappy, it comes out of you and gets off on other people. And I think a lot of times when people are doing what they're not really gifted for and they're unhappy, they always look for something around them to blame it on. Yeah, it's good. It's good. I don't know if you've watched me very much, you've heard some of my stories, but I can't help it. I just gotta, because this is just, when I look back, I think, how dumb can you be and still breathe? You know, I had a big call on my life. I felt like when God called me, he told me I was gonna go all around the world and preach the gospel. And, which sounded stupid. I mean, I was somebody from nowhere with a broken past and a 12th grade education, barely passed English, and I think I'm going to preach to the world. And so for 5 years, I taught home Bible study, and then God said, "Behold, I do a new thing." Don't you love those words from God? Behold, I do a new thing. So I quit the Bible study, laid that down, thinking, now I'm going to the world. And so for the next year, I did nothing. It was like God just set me on a shelf, and it was one of the biggest testing years in my life. But you know, really, when I look back, you live life forward, you understand it backwards. When I look back, I understand now that it was that year in my life that God taught me that I had to stop trying to be like somebody else. God was not going to let me into the ministry that he had for me if I was not going to get up here and not try to be Kenneth Copeland or Marilyn Hickey or somebody else, but if I would just be me. God doesn't want a bunch of clones of everybody else. He wants a fresh approach. But I had a lovely neighbor who just could do so many things that I couldn't do. She played guitar. I tried to learn to play guitar. My fingers are too short. It just doesn't work. Besides which, next to English, I came very close to failing music. So that wasn't good. I can play a harmonica a little bit, and I played a kazoo once in a church play. That's as far as it goes with me. And, but she was Susie Homemaker, I mean, to the max. She growed stuff in her garden. She canned tomatoes. She made jelly. You know, she made her kids' clothes and made a lot of her own clothes, and she mowed the lawn. She painted the house. She macrameed plants. I mean, she just did it all. And I just wanted to tell everybody what to do. That was my gift. Let me tell you what to do. And so during that year when God wasn't letting me do anything, she talked me into doing a bunch of this stuff that she did. She talked me into trying to grow tomatoes and canned tomatoes with her. And so I talked Dave into digging up a garden and and she thought I should learn how to sew. So we got me a sewing machine. I went to some sewing classes. Anybody remember Stretch and Sew? Anybody? All right, there's a few people that are old as me and you remember Stretch and Sew. And it was just like this real stretchy material. And so I made Dave a pair of shorts. It took me forever. I made him a pair of shorts. They were gray and had black piping on them. And when I got finished with them, the pockets were longer than the shorts. And then when you made mistakes, you sat with this little picker thing and you had to pick out one stitch at a time. I hated that sewing machine. I hated it all. I hated that garden, but I was trying to be the right kind of woman. Come on, because I just did not fit the mold. I wasn't what women are supposed to be. My pastor's wife was a beautiful, sweet, little submissive blonde that just adored her husband. Did everything he told her to. And I'm like, I ain't doing that. I don't feel like doing that. Do it yourself. Now, wait a minute. I'm not saying I was right. I had to learn some things too, but no matter how much I learned, I'd never be like her. But I honestly tried to lower my voice. I mean, I did this. I had this garden, I had the sewing machine. I tried to talk softer and sweeter. Yes, honey. And behind the scenes, I'm thinking, you guys act like this is comedy hour. I want you to learn something. Are you learning anything? Well, the tomatoes came in. We had our canning equipment. I bought all this canning equipment. Woo, we're going to can tomatoes. So I went out the harvesting day, and some bugs had come through and ate big holes in all my tomatoes. I mean, crop was ruined. I called her and I said, oh my gosh, some bugs have come in and eaten holes in all of our tomatoes.